Cumbria is a county in northern England home to its tallest mountains and the Lake District National Park. Humans have occupied this area for thousands of years, going all the way back to the Neolithic, otherwise known as the New Stone Age period. Little remains of the ancient cultures that once called these hills home, apart from the stone circles and henges they built. Around 50 of these structures are situated all over Cumbria, more than anywhere else in England. Archaeologists have posited numerous functions for these stone circles, from burial mounds to meeting places, but the exact purpose remains unsolved. I think the mystery behind these monuments is one of the main reasons they attract so many visitors, myself included. A lot of time and effort went into building these things, and to wonder what rituals and ceremonies might have taken place within them that are now lost to time is truly captivating. In this video, I would like to examine a handful of the stone circles found in the Lake District and discuss some ideas regarding their functions. Although I won't be talking about any wilder conspiracies relating to things like aliens and the supernatural, as I just don't think they're substantiated, so this isn't going to be that kind of a video. I will, however, talk about some of the folklore associated with the different circles, because I just find that interesting. All that said, let's dive into it. The stone circles of the Lake District were constructed during the late Neolithic and Bronze Age periods, the same time that most of the stone circles in England were built. When Neolithic people first came to the Lake District, they cleared forests and planted crops, and as their societies grew, they built the first stone circles. The early Stone Age circles were simple circles or ovals made up of around 30 to 40 locally available stones, and usually with a diameter of 20 to 30 metres, although some, such as Long Meg, are much larger. The earliest stone circles were special to Britain, although other later circles were built in Brittany, Scandinavia and northern Spain. Modern-day visitors to the Lake District are unlikely to consider the wet and chilly landscape as a desirable location for Neolithic farming societies to have lived. However, paleoclimatologists have determined that 5,000 years ago the climate would have been around 3 degrees warmer, making it suitable for arable farming and habitation. They concluded this by analysing ancient pollen from dated sediment cores, which give us an idea of past vegetation levels and the climate. This period of warmth is known as the Holocene climatic optimum, and this is the time when the climate was at its warmest since the last ice age. At the beginning of the Bronze Age, some circles became more complex with double or triple rings. The latest stone circles are very small, perhaps having been built by single families. The construction of the circles seems to have ended around 1500 BC. During the Bronze Age, the climate began to cool, and the Lake District became colder and wetter, making it less suitable for cultivation. The people living there moved away into lowland areas and left their stone circles behind. The exact function of the stone circles is still unknown, although archaeologists have put forward many theories. The alignment of many stone circles with certain celestial bodies has been well documented. Many circles align with the positions of the moon and setting and rising sun at certain times of the year, especially the summer and winter solstice. Such observations have led to many theories relating to the circles being some kind of calendar. However, there is much debate over the validity of this. The British archaeologist Aubrey Burle, who was an eminent researcher into megalithic monuments, considered many of these alignments to be mere coincidence, or perhaps of spiritual, not functional significance, similar to the east-west alignment of many churches. Burle seems to think that stone circles were primarily important centres for spiritual ceremonies and trade. Many rings certainly have evidence of burials and cremations. Excavation of circles has revealed stone funerary cists. Quartz chips and pebbles have also been found in excess, and it's been theorised that this mineral held some kind of spiritual significance, or perhaps Neolithic man simply found it aesthetically pleasing. Archaeologists may never discover the true function of stone circles, and this is honestly why they have always captured my interest. These ancient monuments hold so much mystery in regards to their original function, and I love to imagine the kinds of ancient rituals and trade that occurred within those stones that may have been lost to time forever. The most famous circle in Cumbria is undoubtedly Castlerig. This stone circle is positioned upon a plateau in Keswick and surrounded on all sides by stunning fells, including Blencathra, Lonscale and Skiddaw. It is one of the easiest to access circles in Cumbria and hence the most visited. The circle is made up of around 40 stones, all composed of local Skiddaw slate. The tallest stone is 2.3 metres high, and the largest weighs around 16 tonnes. The circle has been dated to around 3200 BC, making it one of the oldest stone circles in Europe. It is unique among other stone circles due to the presence of an additional smaller rectangle of stones within the circle, known as the sanctuary. Archaeologists believe this to have been a later addition, perhaps to draw attention to a more specific aspect of the rituals that might have taken place within the circle. The earliest published mention of Castlerigg was in 1776. This account also mentioned a second larger stone circle in the next field, although no evidence of this circle has ever been found. A description of Castlerigg from 1793 mentions a solitary standing stone outside the circle which is now missing. Later descriptions of the circle describe it as standing within a field of corn, suggesting the stone may have been removed to allow the field to be ploughed. A stone, scarred with plough marks, rests at the edge of the field, and many believe this is the missing stone. The famous Romanticist poet William Wordsworth is known to have visited the circle with his sister Dorothy in 1799. Early tour guides often mention Castlerigg as the ideal spot for those seeking to view the picturesque landscapes of the Lake District. Castlerigg is believed to get its name from a ruined Roman fort or castle that was discovered nearby. To give you some idea of this monument's immense age, when the Roman fort existed it would have already been around 3,000 years old. I like to imagine some curious legionnaire observing the weathered rocks and pondering what their purpose might have been. Many archaeologists think that Castlerigg could have played an important role in the trade of stone axes, perhaps functioning as a marketplace. The nearby Langdale area of the Lake District is thought to have been an important centre for the production of stone axes, and quarrying for axe making may have begun there around 4000 to 3500 BC. These axes were made on an industrial scale, and axes which are thought to have originated in Langdale have been found as far away as Central Europe. Excavations of Castlerigg in the 19th century revealed 3 axes in various conditions. Around 10 miles from Castlerigg are the Langdale boulders. This is a collection of boulders used by rock climbers, but the climbing of one boulder face is restricted due to the presence of prehistoric rock art. This art comprises cup and ring marking, one of the simplest and most common forms of rock art. The exact meaning behind the cup and ring symbols is unknown, although its presence on rocks found at burial sites suggests it may have been of sacred or spiritual significance. Some have also posited that the large Langdale boulders may have been used as a waymarker to help guide people to Castlerigg. Another well-known stone circle within the Lake District, and one of the largest of its kind, Long Meg and her daughters, consists of a solitary stone, known as Long Meg, and a massive circle of stones which are referred to as her daughters. Long Meg is made of local red sandstone and stands 3.6 metres tall. Her daughters are made from the granitic rock rhyolite. The diameter of the circle varies between 100 and 93 metres, making it the third largest in England. The Long Meg stone has ring markings on its northeast face, similar to those on the Langdale boulder. The circle is considered to be younger than Castlerigg, with archaeologists thinking it was constructed during the Bronze Age, somewhere between 1500 and 1000 BC. It was common for circles built during the Bronze Age to be larger than their Neolithic counterparts. It's also thought that the Long Meg stone could be a later addition to the circle, due to it being of a different type of stone. The circle is somewhat erroneously signposted as a Druid circle, although it's true that many modern-day Druids and pagans have adopted stone circles as places of worship. The Druids are thought to have originated around the 4th century BC, sometime after the circles were first built. Any spiritual religious rituals that may have originally occurred within the stone circles have since been lost to history. There is a vast collection of folklore regarding the origins of Long Meg and her daughters. The most popular story comes from the 13th century, and states that a coven of witches led by a tall sorceress named Megain, otherwise known as Long Meg, had gathered to celebrate their Sabbath, when a jealous wizard or saint named Michael Scott cast a spell upon the witches and turned them into stone where they stood. A similar story states that the daughter stones were instead Meg's lovers. One myth common to many stone circles is that the number of stones is impossible to count, and anyone who tries will always get a different number. It's said if you successfully count the correct number twice in a row, then the stones will turn back into the daughters. But if you get it wrong twice, then you yourself will be petrified. Another legend claims that if the Long Meg stone is broken, then it will ooze blood. If you visit this circle, you may discover offerings of money and crystals left at the base of Long Meg by other visitors. William Wordsworth is known to have also visited this circle, and even wrote a verse about it in 1822, titled The Monument. There was once a smaller stone circle half a kilometre away called Little Meg. The stones that made up this circle are still present, but they were moved from their original positions and piled up at the edge of a field. Also known as Sunken Kirk, Swinside is definitely my favourite circle in the Lake District. It was also probably the hardest one to find, which probably explains why I got to experience it all to myself. Well, if you don't count the sheep, that is. After driving down narrow country lanes and finally finding somewhere to park, I had to walk a couple of miles to get to the circle. The stones were located in a field with sheep that had recently lambed, and I didn't know if I could enter, but luckily I ran into the farmer and she was very friendly and she gave me permission to go into the field. This circle is made up of over 50 stones, all made of local metamorphic slate. It is about 28 metres in diameter, and the tallest stone still standing is about 2.3 metres tall. Many of the stones have fallen into the circle. Swinside's alternative name of Sunken Kirk comes from a legend that people tried to build a church, or kirk, using the stones, but the devil kept causing them to sink into the ground. Many of the stones are unusually close together, which is a feature found in many earlier circles. Archaeologists think Swinside was constructed during the late Neolithic to early Bronze Age at around 3000 BC. The circle was excavated around 100 years ago, and charcoal and bone fragments were discovered, evidence that funerary rituals may have occurred here. Much like other circles in the Lake District, the builders of Swinside selected an idyllic location. The circle is surrounded by Knot Hill and the beautiful Swinside and Thwaite Fells. I mentioned at the start that Cumbria is home to nearly 50 stone circles, but unlike Castle Rig or Long Meg, the vast majority of these circles are forgotten, overlooked and in states of disrepair. After the invention of the railway, the Victorians began to lay miles of track all over Britain, and many stone circles unfortunately fell into the path of this new development and were subsequently destroyed. One such victim was Kemp Howe, which was almost entirely destroyed in the 19th century. The expansion of motorways has also had the same effect. The ancient making way for the new is perhaps most starkly personified by Greycroft Stone Circle. This Bronze Age circle, which was restored by Pelham School in 1949 after it was destroyed by a farmer, sits in the shadow of Sellafield Nuclear Facility. The destruction of these ancient and likely once sacred monuments by modern developments is, I believe, a great tragedy. So if you're ever in the Lake District, I highly recommend visiting at least one stone circle while they still exist. Wherever you're staying, I guarantee you likely won't be far from one.